I'm telling them that I can't breathe. Clearly he don't give a damn about my plea. His ancestors used to hang us on trees. Today they identify as road police. You see I'm black, for that I'm a threat to America. My rise is their fall and their fall is evident. Blood on your hands is heavier than an elephant. Open up America's closet and see skeletons.
Hello everyone, this is Sandy Speaks, Reunite Sandy Speaks, and today we are going to talk about the mental health pandemic experienced by Black people in America. The Black people's experience in America is characterized by trauma and violence far greater than white people. And when I use that phrase, it might be more eloquent to say far greater than our white counterparts. But I didn't feel comfortable using the word counterpart because counterparts to me denotes equal. And being Black in America, we are not equal to white people. We're not treated equal. We're not perceived as equal. We don't live, the same lives as white Americans. And in any shape or fashion, any form or shape or fashion. And I really think it's important that we discuss the mental health aspect of being Black in America, because I think every Black person is affected by the demoralizing treatment of Black people in America. Oftentimes we discuss the disparaging people living in poverty and their lack of resources, ability to get proper health care, even nutritional nutrition, or being able to afford a nutritious diet because they are impoverished. So I can go on and on about what Black people who are living in poverty, how their quality of life is diminished by being Black in America. But the truth of the matter, and it's really it's hurtful to me to say this, but I don't think any Black person in America is immune from this stress pandemic. If you are middle class, working class, or even well-to-do, you are affected by the racial disparity and injustice that goes on in America, regardless. And a lot of it, much of it, is attributed to the fear of being Black in America. I'm struggling with what aspects of mental health in America or Black people's mental health in America. I'm struggling with what to focus on and what to talk about because it's so broad. But you know what? What I want to say to you, and I meant to begin with this, I want to say that Black people, it's important that we love each other. Okay? One of the solutions or counter effects of to counter the effects of racism and fear and trauma is very simple. It's simple as loving each other. And simple means the concept is simple. You just love each other. But it's simple, but it's not easy, because it's really hard to love someone when you don't feel loved. And that's one of the determining factors in what's happening and our ability to withstand this trauma. And I want to be very clear about that. I'm going to ask you, I'm going to talk about this in and I'm going to get into the different aspects of being Black in America and to the mental health aspects of it. But again, I want to begin by asking you to please make an effort to love those who look like you. And I struggle with saying that because, again, it sounds really simple, but I know it's really very hard. And as I do have this discussion, I'm going to talk about the attributes of why it's so difficult. I'm going to attempt to. You know, even me, my ability to sit here and communicate with you, I'm struggling with it. My chest is tight. My heart is racing. I feel nauseated because I have to think about communicating to you what's happening to us. And I'm an emotional being, maybe even more so than others. And more than anything, I love Black people. And I want us to live a happy, harmonious life. And I realize it's going to require a lot of work, but I want to talk about Black people and mental health. And I want to probably begin by talking about the clinical effects of being Black in America and the mental stresses of being Black in America. Okay, being Black in America, as Black people, we all are affected by racism and discrimination and injustice. But we might all, our response to it can be different and it can vary. There's different stress levels, right? And so when you're young, like you young 20-somethings, you know, this is with me when I was younger, I wasn't always so much aware. I knew about it, but I wasn't like, I didn't focus on it because even though it was obvious, I was raised to push forward, to focus on what's good and to be positive and not to believe that I can be stopped or I can navigate, you know, that I can be successful. As long as I work hard and I try hard, I can be successful. That is an American dream, right? That's being an American. We are taught you work hard, you have a good attitude, you treat people well, and you prosper. And for many of us, many of us, we have to kind of, when we measure how well we're doing, or we were measuring it again, a lot of times it's measured by economically. How do you have a good job? Do you live in a nice home? Do you live in a healthy environment? Do you have access to good food and nutrition? Do you have a good social life? Do you get to go out and have entertainment? And Black people, we're striving. We're striving. We can't deny that that we're intelligent, hardworking, and resourceful people. We have no other choice but to be. But I want to discuss the mental health. And I think it's very important, and I think there's not enough focus on the effects, the mental health pandemic experienced by Black people. 2020 was going to be memorable for COVID, George Floyd, and then 2021, these crazy people storming the Capitol. And we all know, for the most part, a lot of the Capitol, the insurrection was about white supremacy and white privilege. Okay, and so when we talk about those things, what I think we need to recognize and identify is how we as Black people perceive and think about it. And what I think is important that I point out is like a lot of it can be unconscious, that we have these experiences and these feelings and we're not conscious and aware of them because we have to push forward We have to go to school. We have to get an education. We have to work. We have to raise our kids. We have to clean our homes. We have to feed our children. We have to live. And so consciously focusing on that is debilitating. But I'm confident that many of us are experiencing these effects, and it comes from an unconscious place that we're not aware. Stress, being in a stressful environment, or being in a stressful situation, or in being in fear, can create mood swings, anxiety, the ability to focus. One of my major issues that I'm having, my personal experience, is I struggle with focusing. And I know it's directly related to my experience of being Black in America and how I've been discriminated against and the injustice that I've endured. And I know that's happening to other people. And one of the main things that I'm struggling with is what is the most important aspect to discuss when I discuss the mental health pandemic experienced by Black people. Yeah. And one of the things that I am going to focus on is the police and Black people's response to the police in America. Okay, so the mental health pandemic in America, and I want to talk about, as Black people, how we live fearful lives. We live fearful lives. We live in fear. And again, a lot of what is happening to us can be unconscious, that we're not aware of it, that it's happening to our bodies and our minds. And conscious means that we see it happening. We know why we are having these experiences or having these reactions. And for the most part, I think a large majority of us don't know that these things are happening to us because of our experience of being Black and being traumatized. The trauma, the violence, the demoralization, the inhumane treatment that we receive every day. What I want to talk about that I think it's important is the injustice that Black people experience and how it affects us. And so, I'm hesitating on how to start or how to like segue into where I want to talk about. What I want to talk about is our reaction to seeing George Floyd murdered. Our reaction to knowing that Ahmaud Arbery was shot when he was just going for a jog. And what I kind of read peripherally, or somewhere I heard somewhere, that he was having some mental health stress struggles. So he was jogging and getting exercise to feel better. One of the tools that you use and that you do when you're having stress and struggles and depression and sadness is exercise. Exercise promotes serotonin in the brain. Okay, and serotonin is a mood stabilizer. It's the chemicals in your brain that stabilizes your mood. Okay, and so I want to talk about how we as Black people live every day, knowing that we're hated, that we're treated as less than, that they can kill us and get away with it, that they can shoot us in the back and get away with it. And so what ends up happening is we have perceived fear. And I want to give some examples. The example that I want to talk about is Jacob Blake and Zeke Rayford. Zeke Rayford was the kid. You guys saw the kid that ran from the police, that he was stopped. They were going to pull him over, and he drove home and he ran to his door and they kicked his ass. And many of you, even Black people, white people feel this way, but even black people may feel like, well, he should have complied. The police kicked his ass because he ran. Nah, I'm not going to get sidetracked. Kicking his ass shouldn't have even been an option. Detaining him, subduing him, I understand, but kicking his ass shouldn't have happened. But see, that's why he ran. That's why he had fear. Jacob Blake walked around to get in his car. He had kids in the car. These are all the things that they talk about. But as a black person, as an educated human being, I know that what we saw was the fight or flight reflexes. Okay? And the fight or flight reflexes has to do with the prefrontal cortex. It's part of their brain. I think it's called the linguistic system. I'm not saying it right. When I pause it, I'll Google the words so I can say it properly. But we all are familiar with the fight or flight response. Okay? That is an unconscious response. What that has to do with, to give you an example, if you are crossing the street and a truck comes and tries to hit you, you jumping out of the way or pulling someone out of the way, that is a fight or flight reaction. It's to save yourself, to not be harmed or to be harmed in any way. And so what I believe Zeke Rayford, I hope I'm saying his name right, because his name is spelled Zekee. It might be Zeke Rayford. I'm not saying his name right. Someone help me say it right. And again, Zeke Rayford was the kid that we saw was pulled over, and they tried to pull him over, but he drove home and he ran. Okay, Jacob Blake trying to get in his car. And I think there's probably so many other instances where black people were charged with evading arrest. Even when we look at George Floyd is like the most monumental case that we know of, because we saw from the beginning, from the time they pulled him over. Why did that man, when they pulled George Floyd over, did you guys see the first video? This man was pointing a gun at him. He was like, man, don't kill me. He was pointing a gun at this black man about a $20 counterfeit buck. A counterfeit $20 bill. Okay? So, when we think about this, what would be your normal reaction? If you're driving down the street as a black person and you're pulled over because you didn't signal, or maybe you were speeding, maybe you were trying to get to work on time and you had something on your mind, you're just trying to get there, okay? And you're pulled over because you maybe going 8-9 miles over the speed limit, okay? We saw what happened to the guy who was handcuffed. I think it was either Virginia or Washington. He was handcuffed wrongly, okay? These are the things that we're seeing in America. These are the thoughts that has to be, every black person has to be plagued with these thoughts and ideas. Like I said, even if you are well-to-do, you drive a nice car, you have a good job, you live in a nice area, if a white person stops you, a white cop stops you, even if your conscious mind says, okay, I'm being stopped, do you think, oh man, I'm going to get a ticket? Or now, because of everything we've seen in the past year, are you going to say, damn, I hope they don't violate me and plant drugs on me or lie, you know. And when I say all this, to some of you it might appear to be extreme, but it's not extreme. Everything I'm saying, all the things that I'm saying to you, is happening every day in America. And so, how we as Black people, how are we faring through this? How are we dealing with this? One of the things I want to talk about. Wait a minute, I'm going to pause for a minute because I want to talk about this, and I want to get my thoughts straight. So give me a moment. Okay, I'm going to finish talking about discussing the prefrontal cortex. I can't talk. Prefrontal cortex. It's a part of the brain, and it is a part of the brain that's responsible for the fight or flight reflex. And what I'm struggling with is how much in depth to go into the discussion of the prefrontal cortex and the fight or flight response, because I don't want to bore you, but I want you to stay with me and understand that what's happening to us, our reaction, our response, has to do with the way the body works, the way our brain works, okay? And so why I say that is because when we discuss this in terms of the law and injustice, like with Zeke Rayford, him running Sandra Bland's response to the cop when he pulled her over and he harassed her, Ahmaud Arbery, poor Elijah McClain, it's a fight or flight response. A fight or flight response is our natural response to perceived stress. Like I said, if car's coming and your child is standing there, your natural response without thinking about it is to move them out of the way or to grab them. And I want to explain to you that Black people's response to being stopped, to being pulled over, to being detained by the police, much of their response is involuntary. Involuntary means they do it unconsciously. They do it. Fight or flight is your responses in your body, in your brain for survival. If we see George Floyd being murdered for no reason, I can't say no reason, for the idea that he passed a $20 counterfeit bill, that Jacob Blake was shot in the back, that Zeke Rayford was so afraid about being stopped by white police officers, his natural humane response system was to run. He drove home and drove and called his parents. Okay? And again, forgive me for being so excited, or my reaction is I'm excited, I'm anxious, and you see what's happening to me when you watch my videos, when you see my mood level or me get anxious and excited. And what I consciously want to do is disseminate this information to you in a compelling way where you want to understand me, that you want to hear me. And my greatest fear is that you're not listening or not sticking with me because I'm delayed, that I struggle with cohesion in disseminating it to you. And it is the effects of stress and anxiety. And we all are. And it's why it's important that I make this video. Again, I want to talk about our perceived stress and the law. What will happen? Kyle Rittenhouse was the white male who went to the protest with a gun and murdered those two people. And you know what's going to happen? is that his defense is going to be the same thing. That he murdered those people because he was fearing for his life. That his fight or flight responses kicked in and he shot them. And you know what? That's conceivable. When I stopped for a minute, my first thought was, that crazy white boy went to go kill those people. He went there with a gun. He didn't care. It was premeditated because he went there with a rifle. Right? But then I thought they were trying to take the gun from him because they had fear. Right? And I can't determine, did he kill those people from the fight or flight responses? Or was it consciously? Fight or flight is involuntary. Okay, you understand? Involuntary means you had no control of it. It just happened. Your natural instinct kicked in. Talking about Kyle Rittenhouse, the crazy white kid that shot those two people that were protesting for Jacob Blake. Okay? So what I'm saying to you again, his defense is going to be he was trying to protect himself and his fight or flight responses kicked in. Okay? And so I'm discussing this because I want one of the greatest issues in America is the injustice in America that is done through judicial system, and I hold judges responsible. Lawyers too, but judges. Okay, because the judge's job is to preside over these cases. The judge was a lawyer. He knows the law. He has a higher standard of knowing and understanding the law and human nature and things of that, right? So, in the case of Kyle Rittenhouse, he shot those two people, and they're going to say it was a fight or flight response, but the difference between Kyle Rittenhouse and Zeke Rayford running, Jacob Blake getting in his car, George Floyd being afraid and scared, is that Kyle Rittenhouse consciously went to a place with a rifle in his hand. So his intent, if you're going to go to a place with a rifle, what is your intent? Okay? And it scares me. Again, one of the reasons why we're doing Reignite Sandy Speaks is that we are going to discuss, dissect all these issues of racial injustice, and we're going to talk about them intelligently, and we're going to see from beginning to end what occurred, how the judicial system handled this, and what actually happened, how it ends. Okay, so I kind of went off on a tangent about Kyle Rittenhouse, and the reason why I said that is because Donald Trump even said it when Kyle Rittenhouse first killed those two people. When he first murdered those two people, Donald Trump said publicly that he was had fear and he was afraid and he was fearing for his life. Okay, and I'm not going to go too much more into that because again, he went to a protest with a rifle. Okay, and I'm going to say it again real quickly because I'm trying to get everybody on board as to thinking critically and understanding the United States judicial system. Okay, and his attorneys are going to say that's going to be his defense. His defense is going to be it was self-defense, and it wasn't premeditated, that they went to attack him or whatever, and he was defending himself. But the fact of the matter is, he went to a protest with a gun, And I need you guys to understand the way the law works and the way the brain works. That was intent. And what I'm trying to distinguish is between the judicial system of how black people are treated versus how white people are treated. Reunite Sandy Speaks is, the purpose is to create change. And to order to create change, we have to change attitudes. Okay? And the attitude today is that black people don't matter. That we don't matter. And the laws in our country do not protect us. And one of the things that we have to do in order to have the laws protect us is to recognize when we're being violated, when we are being treated differently. And so where I'm trying to go with this, and what you're going to find, and I need to probably say more and focus more on, is to do just judicial system in America. When I say the judicial system, the head, one of the most valuable or most vital part of the judicial system in America is the judge. In the case of Zeke Rayford, we're going to follow that, you guys. I got to do a follow-up video. I'm going to do a video about all the different scenarios, all the different cases that has happened. Zeke Rayford, Ahmaud Arbery, what's going on. I think Breonna Taylor, her civil suit was done, and I think the officers were fired. But within Sandy Speaks, again, one of the our mission statement or our what we're trying to achieve is to identify these cases of racial injustice, and we follow them. Because what ends up happening is they're sensationalized, we know about them, and we don't follow them. And because we don't follow them in the judicial system, we lose. Like Tamir Rice, I didn't follow that. I don't know the idea. I think it's some kind of immunity that the police officer afforded. It afforded him the immunity. It's why he wasn't charged. And that has to do with willful versus reckless. We all know as human beings, as I could say critical thinkers, I could say common sense. Common sense, you don't shoot a 12-year-old child. Common sense, if there's a 12-year-old child, you think that it might have a pistol or a gun. Because you guys, I haven't followed the whole thing about Tamir Rice. Okay, I know that someone said he had a gun and he had to play a gun and they murdered him. The cop murdered him. Okay, when we even see, and y'all gonna say this is not in real life, but even when we see in shows, police officer shows, the police officer talks down the kid. If the kid has a gun or the kid is doing something that's dangerous, on TV shows, the cops don't murder the kid. When it's a hostage situation or the criminal is doing something that's threatening, what we see is police officers take a approach that is going to minimize damages or minimize damages. That's what we see on TV, because that's how, as Americans, as human beings in a community, we should do. We should move forward. But that's not happening with black people. It's not happening with black people at all. And here, let me get to this, because I get on my tangent. There's certain things that I want to talk about, I want to discuss. In the case of, and I'm using Zeke Rayford often, because you guys, we don't know 100% what motivated that kid, but it is a great probability, probably more than 95%, that kid was scared. We see him running. We see him screaming. Why else would this kid run home and flee the police? He knew they were not going to let him go, right? He was running home for protection. So if he gets arrested or whatever happens, that his parents know, hey, the police got me. The police are, or you know, I'm being stopped by the police. Okay? And the thing that I want to say is judges are aware of this. In a case, in a court of law, if you're being prosecuted for something, it is the defense's responsibility to come up with a defense. Zeke Rayford was afraid. Jacob Blake was scared. Right? That's you in the judicial system. For the most part, you have to come up with your defense and say this is what happens. This is what you have to do. Right? But what's upsetting and hurtful to me is the judges know these are educated people who have an above average education. They go to undergrad. They get a 4-year education. Okay? They get a law, they get a postgraduate degree, they get a law degree. They work as lawyers. Then they're appointed as judges. So if there's all these different cases that are happening and we see black kids or black people, it's not like black people in general, find themselves in this situation, the judges should be aware. Why was his reaction this way? Was his reaction because he wanted to be defiant? Was his reaction because he wanted to break the law? He was not cognizant of order? No. It's because he was afraid. That he has fear. And that's one of the main things I want to talk about in this video is how we as black people are living our lives. And I'm struggling because the words are not even coming to me to be able to be articulate and say how we're being affected by it. And why I'm struggling, I'm not sure. Because in my heart, I know what I feel. I know what I think. But I'm struggling with saying the words. And I honestly can't tell you why I'm struggling with saying the words. Because I know what I think. I know what I see happening. As black women in America, black women are invisible. We're ignored and we don't matter. Okay? And that is so hurtful to me. But what we see is happening to black men. And then we look at them like, why aren't they protecting us? They have to have the ability to know how, the wherewithal to protect us. Okay? But how are you able to live up to being a man as a human being, as a male, as a man, when your experience in America is that you're murdered for no reason? Elijah McClain walking home with his tea and 3 officers harass and detain him, inject him, put him in a chokehold. Black women, I want you to follow along. I want you to stick with me. I love you. As a black woman, I'm struggling, but I want you to think about what it feels like, the experience of black men in America. And your first response is going to be like, well, what about us being black women? When I talked to you guys about the prefrontal cortex. It's the same part of the brain that we have empathy. We empathize. Our mood is the executive function of the brain, how we rationalize. If we as black women are overwhelmed with stress, anxiety, depression, how are we going to have empathy for black men? We're looking at them like, bro, you're supposed to be protecting me. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. And please don't think I'm making excuses for him. Because I'm pro-women. I am very much of a female chauvinist, okay? You get to know who I am. I love women, and I'm a girl's girl. But I'm a critical thinker. And I'm empathetic. And I can't watch George Floyd. I can't watch that video. As a black person. So, cognitively, we're going to think they can murder us. But that was a big, burly black man. And they did that to him because of his appearance. So you think about, as a black male, if you're not a black man, if you're a white person, if you're a black woman, you got a black brother, son, father, I want you to make an attempt to be empathetic and think about navigating life in America as a black man. And girls, please don't say, please, I'm asking you, don't say, well, what does it mean to be a black woman? Gay. Because I got these white people coming for my whole life because I'm a black woman. So I know what it is. Okay? But it's a breakdown of the family structure completely. And he can't protect me, love me, provide for me if they trying to murder him. You understand what I'm saying? I don't feel whole. I don't feel loved. I don't feel appreciated. And how we as black people, bro, you better push through. You better level up. You better handle your business. You better let that shit brush it off. But I'm telling you the way the brain works. I'm telling you how the mind works. These are involuntary responses. Okay? Some of the things that happen to us, we can consciously alter and change our knee-jerk reaction if we're conscious and aware. You understand what I'm saying? But you have to be conscious and aware. And so when you out here navigating, trying to put food on the table, it's COVID, bro. You trying to put food on the table. You trying to have a career. You trying to raise your kids. You have teenage kids out here. This is all the things of being a human being in America. This is just being a man and a woman, not black. It's being a man and a woman in America, trying to my kids are grown, okay, but the parents whose children, like girls, they all look at their Instagram, they bust it. Whoa, don't get me wrong, okay? I ain't gonna talk about what is a highlight today with that bust it, but as a mother, my kids are grown. If I had a 13, 14-year-old daughter and Instagram, that was, my daughter actually sent me a video of one of the buses where the son goes to cover up his mom. Because my kids know how I think, okay? So what I'm saying to you is, these are all the things that as people, human beings, citizens, not just black people, everybody is dealing with in America. Now put on top of that, you're a black person. Okay? And you got to worry about, now I'm focused on the kids, like you focusing on your 13, 14-year-old daughter. You focusing on your son. He going to his girlfriend's house. Boy, you better not bring no kids home. This is like everyday life. But on top of that, my 17-year-old child, I bought him a used car and he's taking his friends to the football game. Why I gotta worry about if the police stop him? Why I gotta worry about my son going to get some tea? My son going jogging. You understand what I'm saying? And ultimately what I'm trying to say is, how we dealing with life in America as Black people. Okay, so summarize the mental health pandemic in, impedes on our lifestyle, our ability to thrive in America. And I can go out on a limb and say a very large portion of Black people are experiencing this mental health pandemic. And I would say at least 95%. Okay. And I think that it affects how we respond to police officers. I think it affects how we engage in life every day with our family. I think that it affects how we compete in the workforce. I think it affects just how we are and how we feel as human beings, that we are often probably overwhelmed with fear, stress, anxiety, and sadness. And I'm going to wrap this up. I got to review everything and edit this video because I'm concerned about how cohesive it is. But I really want to end on saying, asking you to work on loving each other. Okay? And please take what I'm saying to you very seriously. I'm going to ask you, everyone that's watching this video, if you've gone this far, that means you care about being Black and you have a vested interest in what I'm saying, and you also agree with me that we need change. But you guys, the solution to finally freeing ourselves from bondage is cohesion. Cohesion is our equalizer. It's far less of us than it is of them. And that's why we have to be strong. Okay? That's why we have to work together. And we have to love each other. You know, I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to share something with you that I was thinking about when I was putting together this video. I was thinking about putting this video together. I suffered a horrific back injury. My back, I was in so much pain. I had such a bad back that back like 2016, I think, I could barely walk. I couldn't go 3 or 4 steps. I woke up every day in pain. And one day I was out and I talked to this lady in the store. And she was like, yeah, she talked for, I don't know how it started, but she said she had back problems too. You guys, all this noise, I'm sorry, you guys. It's during the day, and so I guess it's somewhat of a busy street. But this woman talked about her back pain. And I suffered from chronic pain. Every day of my life, I had pain. With that comes depression and sadness, right? Because you're in pain. I don't know if you know that. Some of you may not know that, but that's what happens. When you wake up every day in pain for years, taking painkillers affects your mood, your attitude, your outlook on life. Okay? I am naturally a positive person. I'm naturally energetic and happy. Okay? Even when I'm not feeling good inside, I mask my pain with happy and joy and feeling happy. Okay? And so I talked to this lady. We were in the store now, and I'm flashing to it because I kind of want to commiserate with her about the back pain. I was like, yeah, I got back pain too. It's like it was someone I could say, you get like back pain. Yeah, right? Like, whoa. But she was like, oh yeah, I had back surgery and everything. She says, but I'm okay. My family was real supportive. My family was like real loving and everything. And I kind of stopped dead in my tracks, and I kind of was like, and I just was compare and contrast my own life. I was in a horrible marriage with a guy who made me feel like my back issue was my fault, that I was a problem, that I was a burden. And her experience of having back pain and a back injury was a total difference from mine. I remember talking to this lady, okay? We were in the store. And I remember her like, I was like, because my whole thing was like, yeah, you know what backpack is like. You know, I was like, yeah, I got someone that can understand. But I just remember her face. She was like, yeah, it was bad, but my family supported me and loved me and took care of me. And you guys, as far as the guy I was married to, that wasn't my experience. And it was hard. And I'm not going to go too deep in it, but it affected my reaction to it. And I'm making this analogy because what I'm saying to you, if I was loved like this woman was being loved, how I dealt with it, how I overcame it, would have been different than what it actually was. And I'm making that analogy because we are being victimized, maligned, murdered, traumatized, demoralized. And we have to come together. I'm saying all this stuff and I hope it don't make you too sad or depressed. Because the natural reaction is like, damn, she's depressing, right? Yeah, it's depressing. It's sad. But we have to consciously recognize that this is our experience. This is the boat that we're in. And we got to navigate and get the hell out of this boat. And how are we going to do that? We're going to do that by loving each other. Oh, I know you like land and play, Tony, right? I don't know how to say this and really be effective. I just have fear that you guys are not going to take heed of what I'm saying. Please make an effort to love other Black people. If you're confronted with someone who's not being nice to you, who may have crossed boundaries or said things or did things that you are annoyed or angry with, I'm going to ask you to be conscious and show up to this person in a loving manner. And that requires effort, okay? Going back to the prefrontal cortex. If you're tired, if you're dealing with COVID and you're not having enough money to live, to pay your rent, you're not working because you work in a restaurant and there's no jobs, or your family member got COVID and the breadwinner in your family died from COVID. I mean, all these things are happening, right? How do you find the strength to love someone that looks like you? And I say that, and when it hit me, I say, how do you find the strength to love someone that look like you? Because who I am, that's my natural instinct, is to love you. And I reckon, well, you guys, thank you for listening. Please share this video. Please subscribe. This is the beginning of many videos. I do have an agenda. And if you stay with me and you subscribe, eventually you'll understand where I'm going with this and my overall goal. And how I'm going to achieve freeing us from bondage. Anyway, this is Sandy Speaks.
Walking, killing us for jogging, kill us in our homes and fabricating and hiding. Where we had Sandra Bland's and Trayvon Martin's. If when you kill us, your family was a target. If your children was orphans, will you have compassion the next time you approach us? Yeah, we fed up, this is built up. Your city up in smoke, homeboy, we had enough. And I ain't enticing riots of violence, heighten the climate. I'm saying you smack me, I'm punching you in your iris. Retaliation is prescribed in both Bible and Quran. In the matters of the slang, see an eye for an eye, especially if the Justice Department do not